It's like a pencil with erasers at both ends. I want it all, but we're dealing in process. And these activities
welcome
that you
again.
have engaged
We're going to talk about the chapter Doubt, and quite
in.
frankly, this is one of the most eye-opening chapters to this point in the novel. It really gives us real insight into a lot of who Lally is and why she is like she is. It starts off very harshly. She understands nothing. If she understands anything at all, it is only that she understands nothing. She doubts everything. And there are three incidents, physical incidents, that help her remember this period of confusion. And it says she remembers with her body more than her mind, because these are things that she experienced. So in this chapter, there are three subheadings, first, second, and third, and they talk about these three things. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail of the actual accounts that's for you to read, but I want to talk about their impact. The first is of Shuttleworth and the matric boy who are caught touching each other in the showers after lights out. This gives us great insight into the kind of society South Africa was in those days. Lally rages against the kind of society it was. She sees how wrong it is. And so these two these two boys who dabbling in homosexuality, one of them who takes the blame and says that he forces the younger boy into it. He's just summarily dismissed from the school. He's expelled, and it's quite shocking that had to happen. I said to my class earlier today, I said to them, imagine that happened at St. Albans. Imagine we found out at St. Albans one of the boys was gay, or two of the boys were gay, and we said, well, okay, because you're gay, we're just going to kick you out of the school. That would be shocking. We wouldn't be able to do it, and quite frankly, we wouldn't want to do it. And yet in those times, it was the natural thing to do. Homosexuality was, there was so much judgment for things like that. And the author, Sarah Penny, I believe, brings us in here to give us a real picture of what it was like then, of how anything different was not understood, anything different was not allowed, anything different was shunned, brushed under the carpet. Shuttleworth, the younger boy, he has to sign a paper that he says, it's a contract with God for forgiveness and a promise that he'll never seek to have contact with any kind of the older boy. And later on, we read of Lally, who can't sleep well, and she sees out her window, she sees Shuttleworth, the younger boy, coming to the sand where the older boy is waiting before he is expelled and leaves the school. And they meet. And there's a really poignant and touching moment where clearly there's actually something real that is shared between these boys. And Lally is touched by that. She's moved by this encounter that she witnesses, and she realizes how wrong it is that young boys like that would be treated like they are treated. The second incident is where three boys in their class get a young lad who is always teased into trouble. The young guy is Zulu. He's underdeveloped. He isn't circumcised, and the boys always take the mickey out of him. But he has some crackers that have been given to him, and in a class, these three boys, Preston, McGraw, and Boyer, steal his crackers and let them off, and in the end, Zulu gets into trouble for it. Of course, with the threat of bombs and the enemy in South Africa at that time, the bang makes the teacher, Mr. Payne, kind of lose it. He doesn't know what's going on, thinks it's a terrorist attack, which in one sense is quite funny, but in another sense gets Zulu into a whole lot of trouble. Zulu, in the end, gets what they call jacks, which if you were at school in that time like I was, you got smacked with a stick or a cane or something like that. And Lally is really ashamed that she knew what went on, but she didn't act on it. She didn't tell the teacher what had really happened. She says a hot, dirty feeling splashes over Lally as if someone had poured a bucket of urine on her head. It is a shame. She will never stand up for Zulu, and neither will Fat Betty or anywhere else, because they're all scared. They are scared of the all-rounders, Preston, McGraw, and Boyer. The teachers are on their side, and one day they will be prefects for sure. There's this whole idea of some people being treated differently, even by authority, than others are. And and she really is ashamed by what she hasn't said. The third incident she talks of hinges on the other two. And this is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful telling of the connection of two worlds that are divided, the world of the black person in apartheid South Africa and the world of the white person in apartheid South Africa, come together in a beautiful way. Because as Lally is thinking about these things and sitting on her bed and weeping, the sissy, the cleaner, comes over and sits next to her and embraces her. And she's bawling like a child, and she's trying to tell her what's going on. And she even says this, that it's silly to tell the Sisi that she's crying about Shuttleworth and she's crying about Zulu, because the Sisi doesn't even know anything about that. But also, she says she's embarrassed that she's crying over these things because the black people have the problems of the most daunting nature. So her problems, the things that she's worrying about, have nothing on the problems that black people at that time were experiencing. And she lists a whole lot of those. But there is this very beautiful encounter of two worlds divided coming together as the Sisi acknowledges the pain and the loneliness in this young white girl who doesn't eat, who is thinner than she needs to be, who is sitting on her bed, who has experienced two starkly different things, but they have deeply, deeply affected her. In fact, they have made her more lonely and more cynical. And probably this disconnect that Lally has with people and this low emotional quotient or EQ that she has a lot to do with these kind of experiences that she has had. And we will read later of a more intense experience that she has with the realities of apartheid South Africa that blow her mind. And that is what Nomda writes to her about right in the beginning of the novel. So, that's the end of that. It's important for you to know, and I would suggest possibly to watch the next video with this video, because the next chapter, which is the chapter entitled Sisi, is very, very crucial in understanding the same encounter that Lally talks about where she is embraced by the Sisi. That same encounter is told from the Sisi's perspective. And we get a real idea or we get real insight into the perceptions of a black person in this novel, in that time and in that context. So, until next time, gents, au revoir, have a good one.